Hi, welcome to Smax Tutorials. In this tutorial we'd like to talk about the multi-language system. It's a very simple system to use and built over many years. You can run up to 7 simultaneous languages at a time, and we've got 20 different languages to choose from. So let's see how it works. So in this example we've got a 2-language site. We've got English and Spanish. So let's have a look. So this is our main website here, but we're seeing now we've got 2 flags. If we click on the Spanish flag, everything gets translated into Spanish. Click on the English flag and it's all back in English. Okay, so how do we manage this? So first of all, let's go back into our administration area. Hopefully you've watched the tutorials on the design tool. There's quite a few, but this one we're just going to discuss the language flag. So the language flag, here it is here. You could move that center and you'd have the language flag in the center. Have a look. You can have the language flag on the left. And you can fine-tune it so it can just be nicely over the top of your logo. We don't recommend the language flag to be included in the navbar. When you resize down to a mobile, it doesn't work great because the mobile okay, so that's good. So we can see how we can switch from one language to another. If you haven't got the dual language set up here, then you will not see this. Also, we can see here we've got 2 flags. If we had 7 different languages, we'd have all the different 7 languages. And the way the system works is you have a different shell for each language. So if I click on my Spanish language, I could have all this moved around. I could have a different background image. Everything could be changed. But for continuity's sake, it's good to have the 2 shells, template shells, the same. But you're quite free to do anything you wish on switching over. So that's good. So we've already got 2. So these are both made for it. That's why we're seeing these 2 flags here. And we've also got the content page and the home page. So that's the home page, the content page, but each of these has its own language as well. So let's go into our pages and have a look. Let's go into news. So we can see in news we've got the 2 flags here. Click on this and it jumps into the other language. So throughout the whole site, wherever you see 2 flags, it allows you to toggle between one language and another. That's quite nice. And if you go into the item, the same thing. Jumps into the other language. The images are always going to be the same, so it's just text that will change. That's the most important thing. The images, slideshow. If you have any slideshows on your page, they will just be exactly the same. So I'm not sure. Yeah, we've got a slideshow on this one. So I'll go into my Spanish equivalent. and we got the same slideshow. So it's only the text components of the page that will change. So we look at the settings now, and we go into settings, and we've got language here, and this is our language setup. Obviously if we had more languages we'd see more options here, but you can see here we've got user language. This is me, this is my login. It's very important we need to set a default language, so all the translations are sourced from the default language. That's really important because we need a first language that is a native language to type, and then we translate to a destination language, and there's a reason for that. So if we are native English speakers, our default language will be English. If we're native Spanish speakers, our default language will be Spanish. Then we have a global language. Everyone, this is on a user basis. Then any additional languages we've got in here. So we could have 7 different flags here, and then we've got different regions. So in Spanish we've got the Spanish, if it's the region in South America, we'll have the Peru flag in here rather than the Spanish flag. And like if we have United States, we'll have United States in here. So that works out really well. And now let's look at the dictionary. Now the dictionary on a single language site, you can update all these items in here. So all these items will be just in your designated language. For this example it would be English, but we've got dual language here. So let's look and see. So this drop down here will obviously be the multiple languages. If you've got more languages, then you're going to select in here. So we can see we've got the English flag and the Spanish flag. We've got 2 entries. We've got news and we've got news. So we're going to now change this here because this should be in Spanish. So we're going to see news here, and let's go on to news. If we click over to the Spanish, then we're going to see all the there. So let's go to our dictionary. We go news, and I click on this, and it translates it to noticias. So this uses Google Translate API engine. All our dictionary and all our translations are performed by the Google engine, which is, I think it's been working for over 15 years, and it's really, really good now. Pretty well guaranteed that this is very accurate. I mean, let's say we say food in here, and now I want to translate that comida. So we're going to put news. Save. Yes. Okay, that's good. So that works. If we go into drill in here, we can translate as well. Okay. So let's look at our web pages. So we can see we've got our web pages here in English, Spanish, and I got them all in Spanish. So let's say I add a new web page. I'm going to add the web page called food. I'm saying this because I want it to be simple so that you can see where we are translating. Food. So I go in here now and I have a look and I can see food. That's great. But I click the Spanish and I still see food. But I should be seeing the Spanish equivalent. So let's see how this works. So I go into food. Everything's okay. We got the Spanish flag, so this is all good. I can write in here English, perfect. But when I click the Spanish, I'm still seeing food. Okay, so we need to translate that. Translate it, and it says comida. Okay, so that's good. So let's say in here We'll now jump into our website and have a look and see how our changes have affected. So we now put a link in here, food. Yeah. But we're going to jump into Spanish. See comida. Okay. So we need the reason it's always good to show you the different scenarios, because you can see that when I did that, food here and food here. Now that should have been updated. But what we're trying to do with this website is to make sure that when we load the page, there is a minimum disruption as possible. So the page needs to load really quick. In order to do that, we build in advance the menu. We build in advance the data, so that when a new user gets to the page, it's all ready to go. So in this instance, we hadn't built the data. So we go into the design tool, and then we go into our Spanish version. Then we rebuild our data. So what this does is it rebuilds that menu bar in Spanish, and this rebuilds it in English. And then we refresh and we have a look now. So we've got food there, and now we've got comida. So when we're making changes to the shell, and this is our shell, this menu bar is our shell, because on every page we're going to see that. If anything we change in here, we're going to have to rebuild our menu bar in here. And all we do is we click on, we go to settings, responsive tool, make sure Spanish is on here, and then refresh, and that rebuilds the Spanish version of the site. So let's look now at a page, and we're going to add a page from scratch, and we're going to add a new page, news page. I'm going to click add, and we're going to say, how are you today? Add. So you can see we've added a page, how are you today, in English. Okay, so now I want to show you how the individual text blocks get translated. So I am fine, thank you. Yeah, so how are you today? I am fine, thank you. And now we're going to drag a new placeholder, and we're going to say my name is Anne. There. So now we can see we've got 3 blocks. So let's have a look at our page. How are you today? I am fine, thank you. My name is Anne. If I click on the Spanish version, what's going to happen? How are you today? But nothing else here. Can't see anything there. So now we go into here and we do something about that. So the reason why I said in an earlier video you need to choose a default language, because the Google Translate engine uses the data in the default language as its basis for the translation. So if we had Chinese, Japanese, Portuguese here, the Google Translate engine will use our English text that we've added to then translate to the Portuguese, the Chinese. So it's really important that you decide on your default language. So I'll show you how that works now. So at the moment we're not seeing any translate buttons or anything, because there's no reason to, because our default language is English and everything is okay. But as soon as we go to Spanish, we can see that first of all we've got a title here that is in English, and the summary, well, we haven't got any summary and we haven't got any text in here. So we need to source the English that we typed in. We don't want to be typing that in again, but we also need to be translating that into Spanish. So let's do it. So this one here, we've already got our English in here, but I can copy, but we've already got it there, so I don't need to do anything with that. So I go translate, and when I translate, it's just translating this field here. This translate would just translate this field. This translate button will just translate in here, which is our drag and drop editor. So we translate this one, como estas hoy. So it's just translated that text block into English, and we go and save that. But here we got nothing, yet we typed something in English. So how we get the English into here? We copy English. So now it's sourced our English, so we don't need to type that again because we've probably forgotten what we typed in. But we need to translate this now. So we click on translate. Estoy bien, gracias. Save. And what about this one? So we've got no text in here. The same thing again. This is our copy from our English. Copying. My name is Anne. So now with this button here, we're going to translate this text block. Mi nombre es Anne. There you go. And I save. So you can see now that we have it all in English and Spanish. Let's have a look at the English. Let's have a look at the Spanish. Now we go on to our website. ¿Cómo estás hoy? How are you today? I am fine, thank you. My name is Anne. ¿Cómo estás hoy? That's it then. Perfect. So this system is very powerful because we have got two direct translations of everything. Everything is in a list. We could have hundreds of items here, but all we need to do is to click on the Spanish version and we jump straight into the Spanish version. So it's very easy to manage two languages because each page has a parallel version, and that parallel version is in another language, unlike other websites where you could have one page in English yet the parallel page in Spanish doesn't exist. So this system, if you've got one page in English, then you're going to have the page in Spanish. You just need to translate. So we've got this text editor here. We could translate text in here as well. We don't need to use our drag and drop editor. That works exactly the same way. We've got copy English and then translate. So this, if you want to just type it in the WYSIWYG editor, that all works fine as well. So you don't need to use the drag and drop editor if you prefer. Now each of these areas here uses exactly the same system. So once you've got to grips with the news, it's exactly the same here. You know, it's exactly the same. Copy, translate, all your web pages are exactly the same. Comida, you've got these two buttons here. You've got these two buttons here on here. We've got products. We haven't got any products in this example. Events. So you can see it's very, very powerful, but very powerful and very simple to use. And that just about covers our multi-language setup. And we hope you enjoyed the video, and we hope you enjoy having a play with this. Thank you very much for watching.